Hello and welcome to Beyond Reproach.
Hiya.
This is Tux Lurzel.
Stephanie Domingo.
Yeah, I like that.
You would.
Something new.
Yeah.
We be drankin',
Yes.
we be swearing,
Yes.
we be social distancing.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know by now, Beyond Reproach is the show about scandals and scandalousness in American politics and government.
Yeah, get with the program.
Today we are drinking some whiskey sours.
Yes, unfortunately and fortunately, they're so delicious.
They're so fucking good.
I'm just excited.
As you should be. In case you forgot, you can find the recipe on our website. Hopefully you've already seen it on our, I almost said Pinterest.
Oh.
I keep getting all these. Last
Yeah,
episode
you said
I got
Facebook,
Oh, God.
and I'm just like, ooh.
You can find it on Tumblr.
You can find it on Friendster.
Yes. It is on our Instagram, though. The Thursday before every episode, we post the recipe on our Instagram, so you can drink along with us. But if you didn't see that, it's on our website, beyondreproachpod.com.
Yes.
Should we take a little sip?
Yes, we
Sipsy
should.
and
we
cheers.
Should cheers.
Ooh, look at that.
When I was a kid at school learning the golden rule, teacher often used to say, if you don't tell a lie, there's not a reason why you can't be like Washington someday. How could Washington be a married man and never, never tell a lie?
Huzzah!
Huzzah.
I feel like Grandpa Simpson every time I say that, and I love it.
That's like the episode where Mr. Burns answers the phone. What did they used to say?
Wasn't it like hello, hello, or like ahoy, ahoy?
No, it wasn't.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Yeah. That was when Alexander Graham Bell thought that was going to be the greeting when people answered the phone.
Yes.
Ahoy, hoy.
Oh my God.
Can you
wow.
imagine?
Hashtag sad.
But yeah, this is a good drink.
It's a very good drink.
For those of you who are not drinking whiskey sours often enough,
Reflect on your life.
yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Make sure you go to a bar that is not using sour mix because gross.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I drank.
I mean, it depends on.
And I loved it.
Well, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. When I
But
was
now
in my
know better.
20s,
Yeah, exactly.
it didn't matter what the sour was made out of. But
I
now
thought that was the only choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that there was a fancy version.
Yes. Well, now that we're in our 30s, we can
Yes.
go to craft cocktail bar.
Yes.
Well, not right now. But soon enough, we'll be able to go back.
Yes.
And in the meantime, we can make them at home. Because we have a website with recipes on it.
Yes, and we're mature.
Yes, mature. Stephanie's story today is from the 1960s.
Correct.
Picture smoky bars, dimly lit, businessmen in bad suits. I mean, if you've seen Mad Men, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Drinking culture in the 1960s was very male, very masculine, very whiskey focused.
I love all of that except for the masculine.
Yes, exactly. Thankfully, the drinking culture in the 2020s will be female driven, but also whiskey heavy.
As Alert intended.
Yes, exactly. So when we decided that it was going to be a 60s themed episode, I was looking for whiskey cocktails, but a lot of the classics we've already done. We've already done the old fashioned. We've already done the whiskey highball.
We've done so many.
Yeah, we've already done the Manhattan.
Yeah. Oh.
That everyone was drinking in the 60s. But the one thing that kept coming up when I was searching for 60s cocktails that we hadn't done yet is the whiskey sour.
Okay.
The whiskey sour has a really long history.
Really?
It has been around for like 300 years or so.
Really?
Yeah, originally it was basically just like a single serving punch. And it didn't have the egg white or any kind of frothing agent in it.
Okay. It's just whiskey and lemon and sugar?
And sugar, yeah. Jerry Thomas has a recipe in his book in 1862, but even like when he wrote that recipe down, it was already 100 years old or more.
I did not know it was that old.
Yeah. So his recipe does not call for egg white.
Okay.
But I guess shortly after his recipe that didn't call for anything extra to sort of make it frothy, they started trying to put
Was it
soda.
still shaken?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. But they tried to put soda water in it for a period, but then they realized, like, we're shaking it, so that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it explodes in their face.
Yeah. I'm not exactly clear on this, but it looks like sometime around the late 1800s, maybe early 1900s, they started adding the egg white. It adds
It's a
like
texture,
yeah,
right?
like a mouthfeel kind of a thing. It makes it really creamy and frothy.
Yeah.
And super smooth. It
It doesn't even really make it thicker.
No.
It's like,
velvety.
yes. egg white makes it almost feel light.
Yeah. So
You're
the
shaking
proteins
it.
in the egg whites, when you shake it, it like really literally froths it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like pre-prohibition, basically. Everyone was doing egg whites in cocktails. If you're afraid of the idea of egg whites in cocktails, you don't really have to be. As long as you're not using like eggs that you bought like from someone on the side of the road.
Yeah. 6 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. If you're using fresh eggs from a good...
I
like,
never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, alcohol kills everything. Which is
not,
okay.
It has to be stronger than what we're drinking. Yeah, It has to be at least 60% alcohol to...
Okay, good to know.
But yeah, you have a greater chance of choking on a bar peanut than you do getting salmonella from a cocktail.
Yeah.
But if it still freaks you out, or if you're serving it to like the elderly and you're worried about autoimmune issues, you can buy pasteurized egg whites in a carton in the store, and you can use that.
Okay, easy.
Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the 60s, though, they were not using egg whites anymore. The 50s, the atomic age, was a time of innovation in food technology.
Oh, no. It was a time of really bad ideas,
Yes,
too.
we had Cool Whip. We had, like, lime jello salad with ham and mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Because that sounds delightful.
Sounds real good.
And it was also the age of the sour mix that comes either powdered or
I did
in a
not know
bottle.
it was powdered.
Yeah. Yeah, if you work in a bar, it comes powdered and you mix it yourself. But you can buy it pre-mixed in a bottle at the grocery store. So sour mix is supposed to, in theory, be like simple syrup and lemon juice.
Yeah.
In theory. In reality, it doesn't really taste like lemon. It's just sort of like a generic citrus.
Yeah, it's like
kind of lemon lime, but not even. Yeah, totally. If tang is supposed to be orange flavored, then sour mix is supposed to be lemon in air quotes.
It's definitely not lemon.
Yeah.
It's like a.
It's just sour.
Sour.
Sort vaguely citrusy, but
it's
not.
It's citrusy, but not.
Real sour mix has a lot more going on than just simple syrup, just sugar and lemon. It has preservatives. It has artificial flavors.
All the sugar.
So it's
high
so
fructose.
sweet. It's so much
sweet.
sweeter than it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It also has a frothing agent added to it, a chemical frothing agent that's supposed to replace the egg white.
Wow.
Yes.
Now that I know this, I'm like, ew.
Yeah, exactly. But because Stephanie and I are fancy, we are not drinking the appropriate 60s version of the whiskey sour. We're drinking more of the like pre-prohibition era whiskey sour with the actual egg white in it. Before Prohibition, I mean, the cocktail was popular like way before Jerry Thomas's era and remained popular.
Yeah, you said hundreds of years.
Yeah, but it was like consistently popular for a really long time. And it's basically
delicious. I get it.
Yeah, but then like Prohibition happened and it kind of went away. And it wasn't until the 60s that it really came back in a big way. The 50s and 60s.
Okay.
Yeah. So by the 60s, everyone was drinking again. We didn't really get back to the egg white until like the late 90s, early 2000s when the like craft cocktail movement picked up. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a better way.
Hangover is just so much worse when you drink all that crap.
I couldn't even imagine. Yeah.
The traditional recipe usually is bourbon. But I like to use rye because it's a little less sweet and a little kind of like spicy in a way, which I think goes well with the lemon and the sugar. There's lemon. There is a little simple syrup, not nearly as sweet as it would be if you were mixing it with sour mix. An egg white. It's about a half an egg white per cocktail, so you can make 2 cocktails with 1 egg white.
Oh, okay.
A tiny dash of bitters and a cocktail cherry.
Easy.
Yeah. It's super simple. If you have a cocktail shaker, it doesn't require anything that you won't be able to get at the liquor store or the grocery store really easily. And it's delicious.
Yeah.
So you should make it and drink along with us.
It's like a punch, in my opinion.
Totally.
Because
well,
it's
that's, I think,
easy to drink.
Yeah, I think, well, you know how Americans love, like, this one's mine's?
Yes.
Originally, this would have been a punch, but Americans wanted to, like, oh, the English like a punch that's communal.
Yeah, no.
Americans, we want our own, so they scaled it down to an individual cocktail. We're rugged individuals. Yeah, exactly.
We're not down with that communist shit overseas, sharing things like drinks with your friends.
Fuck that noise. I want mines. And there's lemon in it, so no scurvy.
Added bonus.
I'll never go through that again.
Whew. Oh, scurvy. Those were the days. Oh. My scandal this episode involves Eartha Kitt and her beef with the LBJs.
Oh.
Do you know about the LBJs? Do you know
Okay, so we're going to... Let's just spill the tea.
Okay. The tea is that
So normally Stephanie and I pick stories, and we want to make sure that we're not doing the same story in the same episode. So we will tell each other very vague details, like what era was the story. And I usually have to ask this anyways to figure out the cocktail. And she was like, oh, I'm doing something from the 1960s. And I was like, huh, so am I. And I was like, well, what part of the 60s? And she's like, oh, just kind of like generally the 60s. And I was like, so am I.
Yeah.
So we both texted Tim to be our like mediator.
Third party.
Yeah. It's like, I'm doing this. Stephanie's doing... She's going to text you too.
Yeah.
And like 5 minutes went by, and then Tim texts back, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're both doing the same story.
Yeah.
We're like, what? This is unprecedented.
I knew this day would come.
I know. I'm actually shocked that it came this early, but I knew it was coming at some point.
Thankfully, I didn't research your story fully.
Yeah.
Like, I know the concept, basically.
It was Josh from Bloody Beaver that
that told me about it.
Yeah.
How did you find out about
Just the internet.
The internet, okay.
It's been on my radar for like a year. I've been planning on doing it for a long time. And I have done some of the research already.
Okay.
So I told Stephanie, like, you can do it. Because I haven't fully researched it yet, but I had read up on it.
I hadn't researched anything. Like, I just knew of the scandal, and I just been putting it off.
Yeah. We didn't want to do the same story, obviously. Yeah. So I was like, well, there's something else that happened surrounding LBJ.
Yeah. So Tux gave me the idea for my scandal, which you didn't research.
I had not researched it.
Yeah, but you just knew of it from a drunk history episode.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Both of our stories are about LBJ.
Yeah.
Both of our stories from the 60s.
Yes.
But they're different stories.
So did you know that LBJ, everyone in his family had the same initials?
This is at the beginning of my outline.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah. I thought you wouldn't get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his wife's name is Lady Bird Johnson. The daughter
Lydia Baines. Lydia Bird.
And Linda Baines.
Lucy Baines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even the dog's name was Little Beagle Johnson.
Stop it. I did not get that. Oh. Such commitment to a theme. Such commitment to a bit.
But apparently Lady Bird was her name. It's a nickname, but it was her name before they were married.
Yes.
So,
it was a childhood name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so just by coincidence. But then they're like, well, let's roll with it. Yeah.
So I can't believe they did that to the dog.
It's funny that that was totally in my outline too.
That. Damn it. Yeah. Okay, so in 1967, Eartha Kitt was arguably at the height of her U.S. fame. She had just got her sexy on playing Catwoman in Batman.
I wish I could do that. Like,
oh yeah,
I can't. I can't roll my R's in that.
It just sounds like gurgling.
Yeah.
So not many people know that just a year after this really iconic role, her American career would be seemingly in the toilet because she spoke her mind. She had the black ass nerve to speak her mind at a White House ladies' luncheon.
In the 60s? How very dare she?
Yeah. Her questions and her statements were directed at both LBJs, were interpreted... I
was like, wait, what? Oh, duh, we just went over this.
The LBJs.
Yes.
Her statements were interpreted as anti-war.
I mean, they were.
Exactly. To add even more scandal to this, she also hinted at the existence of systemic generational poverty.
Gasp.
So yeah, they picked the wrong token for this little lunch, it seems.
Oh, she's a token and she has a voice?
Yeah. So both Lady Bird Johnson and Eartha Kitt have written about what took place that afternoon. Thankfully, I found a lot of first-hand digital archives from the White House.
Oh.
They have social files. But I almost didn't do this scandal because so much of the information I was reading on the internet was not true.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation.
A lot of speculation, but also a lot of just lies.
Things
that were taken from the press back then that were just making shit up. So I want to say half of the articles I read had lies in them.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and half of them were used real sources.
Yeah.
But because this is the area of journalism where everyone's just using they're using the same terrible source.
Yeah.
But there is actually a scandal in it because I was like, this is all just fabricated. This is all created to sell newspapers, but it's not that. So Eartha Kitt was born January 17th, 1927 on a cotton plantation in South Carolina.
I didn't know that. Wow.
South Carolina.
South Cackalacky.
Yes.
So do you know, I did that whole Charles Sumner and Preston Brooks thing, the caning of Charles Sumner, and I didn't say Cackalacky once in that entire episode.
I know. That's why you mentioned your sorrows, your deep sorrows about this. So I'm like, I'm going to give him a pause to hear what I said.
You know, I had almost gotten it out of my system, and then you brought it back.
Pause. I have notes. Pause for South Cackalacky.
Facts. But now I blame you. If Cackalacky comes back, it's your fault now because I got it out of my system.
I know. Yeah. Seriously. So yeah, she was born on a cotton plantation, and she was
in South Cackalacky.
In South Cackalacky, which is real fun. The next detail, not super fun.
Oh.
She was conceived by rape.
Of course.
Yeah, her mother was of African and Cherokee descent.
Oh.
And her rapist was white.
Yeah.
Her mom remarried when she was 8.
Okay.
To a black man who did not accept her, Eartha, as his daughter because she was so light-skinned. Uh-huh. So her mom sent her to Harlem to live with her aunt.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I know. It's really shitty, but however, her aunt seemed really cool. Her aunt noticed that I had this brilliant creative child and put her in piano lessons and dance lessons. Okay. And there she fell in love with the theater.
Wow.
She went to what's now known as LaGuardia High School. Are you aware of?
Yeah, I've heard. Is that the one from Fame?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the massive performing arts school I think it's in Queens.
Yeah.
I would assume I just assume
everything with LaGuardia's name on it is in Queens. I think, so.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Everyone has went there, basically.
Yeah.
It's so bad. In my head, I'm like, I know Nicki Minaj went there.
Yeah. I mean, there's not that many performing arts high schools to go around.
Yeah, and it's public, too. You can test into it and go there for free.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so she got in, but
it sucks that she got sent away, but, it probably really... her life was forever changed in a positive way.
It worked out for her because at age 14, she joined a black dance troupe as a vocalist and a dancer, and she was touring the world because of this. She stopped going to school, and she was just all over Europe.
Cool.
She was in this troupe for 5 years.
And she came back to the U.S.?
I'm getting there. So she fell in love with Paris because...
Of course.
Duh. Yeah. She has good taste. She learned French really quickly, and French people adored her.
Yeah.
They called her, the sexiest woman in the country. She was so exotic, and she had this really sultry singing voice. Yeah. And very croonery, and they loved her. Yeah. So she toured the cabaret circuit.
Oh, cool.
In Europe and did so well.
Yeah.
But she did the American black artist thing. She moved to France to experience freedom for the first time, but she came back eventually because of the civil rights movement.
Okay.
Yeah. She, Baldwin and all the other black creatives, they came back for the movement because there's no freedom if we're not all free.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I get it. Yeah.
You're just why?
Yeah.
It's a luxury to move away, but if you want things to change, you have to be here.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So she did not consider herself political at all. Most of her friends, too, didn't think she was very political. She was pro-civil rights, obviously.
My drink is almost empty.
Oh!
It's so easy to drink. It's so good. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it goes down
like water.
Like water.
Yeah.
It's so easy. There's a lot of whiskey in there, and it's just so smooth.
It tastes like
Maybe
juice.
this will be a listener favorite episode where we get fucking tanked.
I feel like it will be. So yeah, she came back. She wasn't political. She was just pro civil rights. That was kind of enough to make yourself political. And she was definitely cast as political after this event.
Sure.
She was just giving her honest opinion, and now she's a militant.
How dare she?
So the Johnson administration, like all before it, was very preoccupied with crime.
Uh-huh.
Urban crime, of course.
Yes.
He's a Southern Democrat. This is nothing new. He's actually the one who gave us a war on crime, that buzzword. So the brainchild of this whole lunch event was Lady Bird's press secretary, a woman by the name of Elizabeth Carpenter. She suggested to the president and the first lady that the woman's doers luncheon, which was the name of this event, the doers, which is very funny.
Woman doers. Women doing things?
Well, I never. She suggested that this event in the coming year be expanded from 18 people to 50 people. So she wanted a bigger event.
50 women doing things?
I'm glad you're seated, or your legs would have given out.
Where's my fainting
you.
couch?
So she also suggested that the topic of this first bigger event be what citizens can do to help ensure safe streets.
Oh. Because
poverty, the poverty that leads to crime can be fixed by individual citizens, especially ones with vaginas, because, everyone listens to women having ideas about things, right?
I mean, a group of rich white women in a room talking about the urban poor. What the fuck do you know about crime in urban centers?
Yeah. It wasn't all white women, but it was mostly white women.
And then Eartha Kitt over here, like, hi, I'm light skinned, so I'm allowed to be sexy.
Yeah, she was like black light, but everyone knows that half black is just black enough. Look at President Obama.
Absolutely.
Like, they done fucked up.
Yeah. But she never would have been even allowed to be like sexy Catwoman if she had dark skin. Like in the 60s.
Oh my God, no.
Not.
No. So the press secretary was just doing her job. She was playing the game. She said that talking about crime would, quote, let the White House focus on it before the Republicans take that play away from us.
Sure.
This event was coming the day after the State of the Union, where he was already talking about crime.
Okay.
Because he's a big man.
Sure.
He's the law.
And it's not about lifting people up. It's about...
I'm going to get into that, but it's supposed to be about that, but...
Yeah.
So the White House staff drew up a guest list and picked 3 speakers for the panel. The audience was made up of NPOs, volunteers, judges, teachers, reporters, and wives of politicians.
Okay. So it's not just like rich society.
No, it isn't.
Okay. My head, I'm picturing like Lady Bird's friends.
Yes. I'm going to get to this at the end, but the drunk history episode really leads you to believe a lot of things that aren't true.
Okay.
Because they were probably using the sources that were wrong that I saw everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They did their research. They did not fact check.
Okay.
Because there's first-hand sources. Like there's minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they wanted to have a token black celebrity in the mix. Someone who had demonstrated leadership of some sort to youth. So there was there was a reason why she was picked. It wasn't just because she was black and she was hot.
Sure.
They were looking at either Ruby Dee or Eartha Kitt. And Ruby Dee, I don't think she could have cleared any sort of FBI screening. She was very heavily involved in the civil rights movement. I
don't know who Ruby Dee is.
Oh, she's a actress and an activist from the same...
Like a film actress or TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Film. She was in like No Way Out.
Oh.
Edge of the City.
I probably know who she is, just didn't know her name.
St. Louis Blues.
That sounds familiar. I'm not sure I've seen that though.
So as I was saying, that Eartha Kitt was very active in youth causes.
Yes.
She volunteered throughout her career. When she was still in the dance troupe, she coached students who didn't have the money to go to like private dance school.
Wow, that's awesome. Amazing.
She's so nice. She eventually started her own NPO called Kitsville Youth Foundation. Huh. It helped kids in the Watts area of LA. It's like a bad neighborhood in LA.
Okay.
It was like a school where she taught them African dance and modern dance.
Cool.
As well as like personal development sort of things.
Huh. Okay.
Like there were classes in grooming, diction, poise, and physical fitness. I'm like, can I go?
Yeah.
Can I go right now? I'm bad at diction. Kitt also became involved with a group of youngsters in D.C. who called themselves Rebels with a Cause.
Oh.
Yeah, they were a group of volunteers that cleaned up their neighborhood and wanted to build like youth centers.
Cool.
But they didn't have any funding.
Okay.
So the group reached out to Kitt to ask for help in getting some congressional monies. LBJ had just passed some like juvenile delinquency bill that year, so she testified with them in May of 1967. She testified before Congress. She talked about how in a year with very limited funding, these quote-unquote rebels had achieved a lot, and who better to rehab these like broken neighborhoods and to prevent juvenile delinquency than those who, she said, quote, understand it and are living it.
Duh.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like the way that they try to fix like urban neighborhoods is the way that they try to fix like foreign countries. Like it feels like foreign aid.
Yeah, like I have no idea what's happening there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to throw some money at it.
Yeah.
Totally mismanage it.
Yeah. It's fixed, right? The problem's fixed, right?
Yeah, we threw money at it.
Yeah.
Why
it's
isn't it
only
fixed?
been 2 years.
Yeah.
Like everything's better, right?
Yeah.
So this is how she got on LBJ's radar. A month after this testimony, she was recommended for a special position on Johnson's Citizen Advisory Board on Youth Opportunity. And this was a board that was going to be chaired by the vice president. So it was a big deal. Although the FBI cleared her to be in this role, the negative turn of events after this luncheon ruined this gig for her.
Sure, yeah.
Obviously. So Eartha rolls up late to this women's doers luncheon on January 18th, 1968, because she really didn't want to go to the White House in the first place.
Sure, okay.
She actually turned them down the first time.
Ah.
She wrote in her autobiography, she said, quote, "I thought it would be a lot of nonsense. Flowers, champagne, a chance to show off. I felt a con coming on."
Oh, imagine that, yeah.
It's like she had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
She did reconsider in the end. Despite arriving late, she was still able to do like a quick photo op with Lady Bird for the black magazines. Ebony and Jet were there to take her picture, which is good because after this event, no one was fucking with her. They were like, bye. So this lunch was in the family dining room. 10 women were seated at each of the 5 tables. Mrs. Johnson and Eartha Kitt were seated at separate tables on either side of the podium.
Okay.
After the meal, Lady Bird went to the podium to make some opening remarks. She said how the subject of crime was, quote, a grim subject for such a pleasant gathering.
That's why you're there.
The extent that crime had eroded the quality of all lives, basically. She was saying that crime has touched everyone, so that's why we're having this very grim, somber luncheon.
How has it touched you, Lady Bird?
Exactly, right? All lives? What? Yeah. She stressed the role average citizens could play in crime prevention. Okay. She then talked a bit about the 3 panelists who were to talk about crime in their communities and what they were doing to prevent it. The first lady she introduced was a woman named Margaret Moore. She talked about her crusade in Indianapolis. She apparently organized a lot of volunteers. She got, I think, 2,000 kids dropouts to go back to school. She was actually doing really good things, but this is all interrupted by Liz Carpenter, her press secretary. She announces that, we have a special guest coming in. In walks Lyndon, man LBJ.
Yes, the LBJ.
The LBJ. He walks in with his hot take on crime that 0 people asked for. He said that, quote, "The founding fathers had left police power to the states. Yet when something went wrong, people looked to the federal government for help." He went on to say, "The American public did not actually want the government intruding in their affairs," and suggested that mothers should make the effort to prevent their children from getting into criminal activity.
I don't know if you guys just heard the sound of my jaw hitting the floor, but that's what that sound was.
He then thanked the women for coming and started to leave. This is when Eartha stood up and prevented his departure. She's like, "Actually, I have a question." She asked, "But what do we do about delinquent parents? The parents who have to go to work, for instance.
Yeah.
Who can't spend the time with their children as they should." Very good question.
Yeah.
Very real question. There are so many working women. This is insane.
It's the 60s.
Yeah, 68. This is 68.
So by the end of the 60s especially, there were so many women in the workforce.
It's just, it's so insane. So to this, Johnson said that, quote, "The Social Security bill has recently been passed, provides funds for daycare centers where working mothers could leave their children."
What?
It's like you didn't even answer the question. She asked...
That has nothing to do with what you're saying.
Yeah. She's saying that these women can't spend time with her kids. Like, what are they to do? Put them in daycare? That means they still can't spend time with their kids.
They're not going to be criminals if they're in daycare?
Apparently not. And then he basically smoke pelleted his way out. He left by saying, as he was walking away from her question,
yeah,
he said, "I think this is a very good question for you to ask yourselves. You're the president. I'm asking you. What? What? Yeah, this is a very good question for you to ask yourself. You women here, and you tell me what you think." And then he left. It's like, how can we tell you what we think when
You
you're...
tell me into the air as if I were God.
Yes.
Just say it out loud and I'll hear you.
I can hear everything. He actually wiretapped like all of the White House.
Oh, yeah.
but still, yeah. Garbage. He was just trying to get out of that really tough but really real question.
Yeah.
So the second speaker, what?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
What?
It's so funny that we're both doing the same person in the same episode because
you know
I
so
actually
much
have
about
something
him.
about like audio that has recently surfaced of him speaking because there were recording devices all over the place.
He was like Nixon like 0.0.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know that, and I only know that because I researched this story and I like saw it in my like periphery. Mm-hmm. So the second speaker spoke about her time working in Atlanta at Head Start. She was a Vista. Do you know what a Vista is?
No.
It's AmeriCorps, basically.
Okay.
Like back then it was called Vista.
Okay.
So she was working with Head Start in Atlanta.
Okay.
This woman, she emphasized the need for poor people living in high crime areas to become active in their communities like they weren't already before, and to work with local law enforcement. I'm like, she sounds like a Karen.
Yeah.
I'm like,
she is such a Shelby.
The last speaker was a woman on some national advisory commission. She talked about her research of the Watts area, again, of LA. Oh. She was told by the residents, she actually listened, their concerns were better housing and employment opportunities.
Okay.
And most importantly, equal education.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah.
These are the things that everyone wants.
Imagine
and needs.
that.
Yeah. So after these presentations, the First Lady opened the floor for questions and discussion. A few women... I know, right? Again, she done fucked up.
I just have that emoji face with all the teeth.
Yes.
Ooh.
A few women spoke. Then a woman named Ruth Harris, who was the HR director for DC's city government, she pointed out the fact that she felt there were only 3 areas that were really slightly touched upon that she thought were really important. Mm-hmm. She said they were alienation, exploitation, and discrimination of those people living in poor neighborhoods. She does not sound like a Karen.
Yeah.
She sounds like she knows things.
Yes. Jeez.
Yeah.
All these do-gooders did not come here to hear you talk about real issues,
I know.
lady.
I mean, Ruth Harris is a black woman.
Okay,
I don't know that, but she probably was.
Yeah.
This seems like a black sort of thing.
Yes.
So Mrs. Johnson then recognized Miss Kitt. They called her Miss Kitt, like in the press, who had her hand up. It's like, okay, if this black woman can speak, then I can speak.
Yeah.
She told the First Lady exactly what she thought. Mm-hmm. That juvenile crime was in part a pushback against being drafted into the Vietnam War. Kitt said that...
Take.
I know. Kitt said that the luncheon had missed the point on why this problem existed. She then went on to say that she had lived in the, quote, the gutters, and was therefore more qualified to speak on these matters, which was true.
Yeah.
But, the room fell silent.
Yeah.
She went on to say that, quote, the youth of America are angry. They're angry because their parents are angry. She attributed some of this anger to high taxes and because, quote, there's a war going on that Americans do not understand. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she's referring to just like poverty or like the
Probably
war
Vietnam.
in
Vietnam was like everyone hated Vietnam.
Yeah, right. It's ambiguous, but it probably was Vietnam.
Vietnam was like the first time that like Americans were like, wait, why are we even doing this?
Yeah. Kitt then apologized to Mrs. Johnson because the room, again, was like you could hear a pin drop. She apologized to her if she offended her or the president, but added, I'm here to say what's in my heart.
Yeah.
She said that she was close to many young people and that one of the many reasons mothers were having problems caring for their kids was because of the low welfare payments that they were receiving at the time. Kitt ended her remarks. This is like the scandalous part. What she's about to say next was heard as a very angry denunciation of the war.
Okay.
She said that the young spent their time in school only to be, quote, snatched away from their mother and sent off to Vietnam. Therefore, young boys didn't feel like it was worthwhile to be a, quote, good guy, since those with criminal records were not sent off to war. She says, quote, I'm talking as a mother who has a child. I know the feeling of having a baby coming out of my guts, particularly when it is a boy. You take the best of the country and you send them off to a war and they get shot. They don't want that.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, everyone is like snatching their pearls like, what do you mean this war is confusing and not right?
Yeah.
Kitt argued that, quote, the Johnsons did not know how these boys felt because they couldn't come to this fancy ladies' doers luncheon and say it for themselves. That's not her quote, but
sure. No, I
her
know.
quote is the Johnsons didn't know how these boys felt because they couldn't come to this luncheon and say it for themselves, and that they had to rebel in the streets. They will take pot. I don't know if the expression is marijuana. They will smoke a joint and get themselves high to avoid getting shot. End quote.
I mean, I
get
do
it.
pot.
The marijuana.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. Marijuana.
The devil's weed.
The devil's weed. This comment caused Betty Hughes, the wife of the then New Jersey governor, to stand up.
Oh.
Because
pearls clutched.
She felt, quote, morally obliged to speak. Here we go.
Let's see what Betty Hughes has to say.
Yes. She had 8 sons. One who had already served in the Air Force. None of her sons wanted to go, but if deferment did not come for them, she said they would go. She went on to talk about her first husband who was killed, yes, again, in World War II. And she said, quote, anyone who's taking pot just because there's a war in Vietnam is some kind of kook.
Girl, sit down.
Right.
Sit the fuck down.
Go
Take
by.
several seats.
Yeah.
Please.
She's just gathering up seats.
That's a Wendy Williams thing. She says, take several seats.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. I love it. So Kitt responded. She explained that the war was not the sole reason for rebelling youth, as she already said. She said this is one of the reasons, but okay. And she reiterated...
Betty has selective hearing.
Yeah, I mean, of course she does. She reiterated that she was neither siding with or against these boys, but she was merely there as their spokesman.
You invited me here.
Thank you.
Why am I here?
Why am I here?
If not to be...
Exactly. That was her whole thing. She's just like, oh, I thought you guys wanted my opinion because I'm working with these youths. Shit. So, this is not in my outline, but Lady Bird's big push for, like, her cause, you know how every first lady has a cause?
Sure.
Was, like, the beautification of the U.S. So she wanted to, like, plant a bunch of trees and then, like, everything would be okay.
Be best.
But I do understand, like, there is something to making a neighborhood look good, but like that's not the root cause of anything.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I live in a really ugly neighborhood.
That's like the cherry on top of a neighborhood that's not broken.
Well, that's like the whole, what is it? Broken windows or what is the...
I don't know either.
No, it's like if you go to a neighborhood with broken windows, then that's a neighborhood with crime in it. But if people would fix their windows...
Oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally about the windows.
Yeah. But it's the same idea. It's the same thing.
Totally.
Like, if you have a pretty, like, flowering tree outside,
it's like
then everything's
putting lipstick on a pile of shit, basically.
Yeah.
Mrs. Johnson then kind of collected herself and she addressed the gathering and she said, quote, because there is a war going on and I pray there will come a just and honest peace that still does not give us a free ticket not to try and work on bettering the things in this country that we can better. Crime, education, and health were 3 areas in which progress had been made. End quote. Eartha, she turned to Eartha and said, I'm sorry I cannot understand as much as I should because I have not lived in the background as you have, nor can I speak as passionately or as well as you can. But I think we must keep our eyes and our heart and our energies fixed on constructive aims and try to do something that will make this a happier, better educated, healthier land. Everyone clapped.
You have someone sitting in front of you who is trying to tell you what the actual problem is and how to actually do something about it.
Yeah.
And instead of taking that criticism
feedback
constructively.
Yes.
She's not trying to say, like, you guys are bad.
No, not at all.
You're not doing things
not
well.
At all.
You invited her
to
say her piece, and here she is saying
to speak on what she knows.
And you're taking it as criticism instead of feedback. It's so disappointing.
It really is. So there was a woman, Dr. Bonetta Washington. She was the wife of the D.C. mayor at the time and the head of some women's job corp. She said that she could empathize with Kitt's experience because she, too, has worked with the same underprivileged people. She spoke of women who had expressed despair and lack of hope in their lives. Mm-hmm. And she went on to say that, quote, I am one who stands here with a great deal of optimism. And the optimism is because what we in this room can do, end quote. So she's like trying to bring the things down like a notch and like, yeah. So the lunch ended, and many of the white women told the First Lady on their way out how proud they were of her, that she stood up to Eartha Kitt, you know, this angry black woman. Oh. Eartha left without saying anything to the First Lady and noticed that no one came up to her for an autograph. She was invisible, basically. I think it was like guilt by association. No one came up to her, and she just left.
Jesus.
Yeah, she returned to her hotel. She took a cab to meet Rebels with a Cause, and they showed her all the progress that they had made in that year with all that federal coin that she helped them get. Sometime before dinner, Kit met up with Stokely Carmichael, a friend, #jealous. Do you know anything about? Oh, he fine. And also he was a revolutionary, like very heavily involved in like the Black Panther Party.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look for...
Oh, he's so smart too. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. But yeah, they were friends. So he picked her up. He took her back to her hotel and then eventually to the airport. That evening at the airport, she met a reporter because already, like, this was an afternoon event, and like in the evening, it was already a scandal. Like, there was a reporter at the airport in DC, and she was very confused by it. She said there was nothing wrong with what she said. She said she had conducted herself, and she hoped that it would, quote, do some good.
Yeah.
Because she spoke honestly.
There was nothing wrong with what she said.
She went on to say that the First Lady had become slightly flustered, that the beautification program can make a very attractive city, but it would not do much when it comes to solving the problem of juvenile delinquency.
Yeah.
Because duh.
Sorry to interrupt again, but I just looked up broken window theory.
Oh, this is a theory.
Yes, a criminological theory that states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disobedience create an urban environment that encourages further crime and disorder.
Oh.
So if you see graffiti or a broken window, that encourages you to continue to break windows and graffito tag.
Yes, that's definitely what they called it.
Yes. Bart's joined a violence gang.
Violence gang. Correct. Oh, man. Hilarious.
Yeah, but if you plant a tree...
You're good. Your neighborhood is fixed. So she hops on a plane, and then she gets back in LA, and like by the time she's in LA, like this shit is fire. Because she flew from DC to LA.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. There are a ton of reporters that meet her at the airport. And still, she was unrepentant because, again, what did she do?
She didn't do anything wrong.
So she told reporters that she would do it again because her comments were made because she realized that the luncheon wasn't getting to the heart of the matter. She says, I think I'm speaking for millions of Americans across the country and the world.
Because she was.
Exactly. But this was el scandalo. Mrs. Johnson reacted to the incident with a very formal statement the next day when, you know, the press is ablaze at this point. She said, quote, the good constructive things which the speakers on the panel talked about were not heard. Only the shrill voice of anger and discord the suggestions presented would have been useful to any women's group in any city, and I believe they wanted to know about them.
She made things worse. I'm sorry.
It's so infuriating because it's like Eartha just spoke plainly. She never raised her voice. She didn't say anything inflammatory at all. Like at all. Just the truth and not in a nasty way.
She didn't even want to be there.
Exactly. She did not want to be there. So accounts of this luncheon appeared on front pages of major papers across the country.
They're like... Eartha Kitt bitch slaps the First Lady.
Kicks her in the crotch.
Jesus Christ.
Some media reports erroneously stated that Lady Bird burst into tears.
Oh my God. Oh, the angry black woman made the First Lady cry.
Major newspapers expressed shock and outrage at Kitt for her angry black tirade. And they praised the First Lady because obviously, but they're not going to say anything negative about a First Lady. No. It's not like she's black and bearing her arms.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
So I'm going to get into like the blowback from this. There were a lot of letters that were sent to the White House.
Like, oh, dear First Lady, good for you for standing up to that angry black lady.
Yeah, I mean, they were mixed, but yeah, I'm going to go through the positive ones first. Many were proud of her, quote, composure in the face of, quote, bad manners. Many letters came from mothers who were proud that their sons had served and died, which is weird flex, but okay.
Okay.
They were happy that their sons died to, quote, prevent the spread of communism, or because if we don't go over there and fight for our country, they will take it from us, end quote.
Vietnam is not trying to take anyone's country.
There are letters from black people as well who disassociated themselves from Kitt's remark, which is unsurprising because I think a lot of them were embarrassed of the fact that she spoke so plainly about like high taxes and about welfare. And, you know, white supremacy teaches us first and foremost that only white people are individuals. Everyone else is reflective of the whole.
I mean, it's 2020 today and black people are still not allowed to talk about their experience. So.
And this reminds me of one of my favorite comedians. Do you know Hasan Minaj? He has a show on Netflix called Patriot Act. It is so good.
Oh, no. Yeah. I know of it, but I haven't seen it. Oh, my God.
He testified on the student debt loan crisis. Yeah, he testified before Congress. I have a very funny quote from this. This is the first thing that he says.
Okay.
He says, "My name is Hasan Minaj. I'm a Muslim, and I condemn radical Islamic terrorism. That has nothing to do with anything, but I just wanted that on the record."
Big facts. This
died.
motherfucker knew.
I fucking died.
I am a Muslim. You're not going to fucking listen to me if I don't say praise Allah.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
I died. First statement, like, has nothing to do with anything. It's like, he just said it because he knows that it's true. Yeah. They just see a Muslim and like,
he is my hero.
He's amazing. You really need to watch Patriot Act. It is so, so good.
If only Eartha had gotten up and said, I am not a Black Panther.
Yeah. Thank you. Like, ugh. So there was a black man who wrote to the White House saying, quote, "The elation that I felt on seeing members of my group in attendance at the State of the Union the night before the luncheon was followed by shock when I heard and read of Miss Kitt's denouncement of your and our president." Another letter read, "Being a Negro myself," this woman wrote, "I know that persons who share Miss Kitt's views and condone her boorish behavior are in the minority." Another feared, rightfully so, that, quote, "Most Americans upon hearing of the incident will, as so often is the case, unjustly attribute her remarks to the entire Negro race rather than its proper source." Girl, duh. Some people wrote that Kitt was wrong to attack Mrs. Johnson. Again, she was not attacked at all, but
in any way whatsoever.
But if you read the press back then, it's all like attack. She
So inflammatory,
cried.
I'm sure.
Oh my God, you don't even. I'm gonna post a lot of the headlines. They're absurd.
Yeah.
Like, so far from the truth, it's really laughable.
Gross.
So yeah, some people wrote that Kitt was wrong to attack Mrs. Johnson, but then added that the remarks actually do reflect the mood of the country. People were feeling lots of ways about Vietnam. They pointed out what they saw as a lack of, quote, tact. So it's not what she said, it's how she said it, which seems very male, this critique, like tone policing, like, she shouldn't have said it that way. It was the fucking truth. Why does it matter? Oh, because she's a woman. She's a black woman. That's why it matters.
I mean, especially a woman with a vagina.
Yeah.
And black skin at the same time.
Right? Yeah, it was too much. However, there were people who fully supported Kitt. One letter wrote her remarks were a release of frustrations built up over decades of being humiliated and discriminated against. It went on to ask a very real question: can we expect Negroes to fight for freedoms in Vietnam, which they don't possess here in America?
Big facts.
Yeah.
And they lit those letters on fire on the White House lawn.
Yeah. Why are we going over there to attack other brown people? For what? For who? Politicians were obviously mostly on the side of the Johnsons, but there were a few. There was like two that supported what Eartha Kitt said. Prominent black people were mostly on Eartha's side. MLK said that it was a very proper gesture that described the feelings of many persons, which is true.
If she were a man, if this had been like an actual like forum for lawmakers to sit down and speak, and MLK had come, I'm sure that there would have been some kind of blowback, but he would have been listened to at least.
Exactly. They're not hearing what she's saying, like, at all. There's a comedian, Dick Gregory. He told the press that someone in Miss Johnson's position ought to be more informed. why is this brand new to her that Vietnam is controversial?
Literally.
Like, where have you been, girl? Jackie Robinson, the baseball player, he wrote in the failing New York Times, he wrote an editorial about this. Because this had become such a big scandal. Like, for no reason. For no reason.
There was nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Did you fucking forget that there's a war on? You don't have anything better to talk about right now?
Thank you. My hands are in the air because, like, why are we talking about this? Like, this went on for months.
68 was a crazy-ass year, too.
Yeah, so much happened. Everyone died. Everyone was assassinated.
Bobby Kennedy died. MLK died.
MLK in April.
There was crazy shit going on in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There's riots in the streets in the U.S. And we're talking about Eartha Kitt?
Thank you.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Because she's she's the only one who's anti-Vietnam, or at least
the only one.
I'm like, okay, you guys are silly. But he wrote this editorial that was really, really sweet. He said, because whites had not experienced the pain and humiliation blacks had suffered, they could not understand the anger. He hoped that his editorial would make, quote, white Americans look at the causes that brought about Miss Kitt's comments, and that understanding of whites could help bridge the gap between the races. You're so hopeful.
So innocent.
Yeah. After all you've been through. But,
I just want to pinch his cheeks.
Right? I read that. I'm just like, so how did this affect her career? There's very mixed information on this.
If you guys haven't seen the Drunk History, they're basically like, oh, Lady Bird was pissed and had the FBI ruin her career, and like she had to move away because of it.
Yeah, that's not really true.
Yeah.
There was a video interview in 2006. Kitt said that she had not realized that this fake debacle in the White House had affected her career until a New York Times article in 1975. An investigative reporter named Seymour Hersh called her about the CIA's file on her.
Okay.
Yeah. She said, quote, I didn't realize I was being rejected in the United States and I couldn't find work. I thought maybe my popularity is waning. My record sales were not up, she said.
I mean, she was like a pop star. She was, especially in the 60s, if you're not 25,
exactly.
Goodbye.
So at this luncheon, she was 40.
Oh my God. Yeah. Her career was already over.
However, she's a black woman, but still, it was by Hollywood standards, 40, you're done.
That's the end.
You're done. She was always more popular in Europe, and she was still booming there. So she really didn't notice any real interference in her career. But the fact does remain that the CIA did have a file on her. It was a 3-page report. It started in 1956, so well before this luncheon. Like almost 10 years before this luncheon, the CIA had a file on her because she was working abroad. Okay. They had files on all influential black people, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The end. Yeah, that's why, but like their reasons, like she worked abroad, we don't know if she's communist or not. She's black and she has power, so we're afraid.
At some point, we're going to have to get into McCarthyism.
Oh, yeah, and I want to get into COINTELPRO. Do you know what Oh, okay. Ooh.
Let's save that.
Yeah, I'm going to save that. So this report was legit just garbage, filled with lies and gossip, basically. It was all gossip. Wow. And character assassination. The report stated that Kitt had a, quote, very nasty disposition. They described her as being a very spoiled child, very crude, and having a vile tongue. She was of loose morals. There was so much documentation about just her sexcapades in Europe because they were fucking jealous because she was having sex and not being ashamed of it.
Women are not allowed to enjoy sex.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're going to get into this soon, but holy shit, LBJ and his sex life.
Okay, cool. I'm excited. So there's a fun quote from this CIA 3 pages of garbage. Quote, Miss Kitt, who is black, was said not to associate with other Negroes and often bragged that she had very little Negro blood. A few paragraphs later, the report noted that in 1960, Miss Kitt had signed an ad in support of Dr. Martin Luther King. And the fact that she had all these charities and she just had all these black friends, yet she doesn't... It was all lies, basically. It was literally all lies. So when the news of this reached Eartha, she said, I don't understand this at all. I think it's disgusting. So she told the Times to publish whatever they wanted from this CIA report. She said, I've always lived a very clean life and I have nothing to be afraid of and I have nothing to hide. And she said most of the statements about her childhood and her career, as recorded by the CIA, were incorrect. She said, as long as they're going to investigate any of us, meaning any black of us, They should at least come out with the truth.
I mean, this is a bunch of white men in a room.
Exactly.
So, like, they can write down whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. This is Operation Mongoose.
Yeah, literally. I mean, right afterwards, it's only a few years later.
It's fantastical. So, most, like, historians and scholars don't believe that Lady Bird asked the CIA to investigate Kitt.
Yeah,
and
they would have been doing that shit anyways, because they were doing any, like you said, any influential black person who had something to say.
Mm-hmm. And if she did ask, it wouldn't be in writing. And First Ladies really don't have any power, and they don't think that Lady Bird would want to continue this. They wanted it just to, like, go out of the news, like, focusing on this really scandalous thing doesn't really make any sense.
She just wanted to put it behind her and go back to planting trees in fucking Bushwick.
Exactly. The Secret Service, when they were asked, they said that the request was made for security purposes and not to, quote, destroy her.
Her career was already over.
Yeah.
Yes, black don't crack, but like 40 bury her. Yeah. She's done. Or she can go to Europe.
Or you're either dead or you could prosper in Europe.
Yeah, which is exactly what she did. And then
that's
fucking
exactly
Drunk History is like, oh, it's Lady Bird's fault that she went to Europe.
No, it's lies. But it's still a fun scandal because they really blew something out of nothing.
Totally.
They painted this picture of her being this, like, angry black woman who made Lady Bird Johnson cry, which was never the case. Instead of talking about real issues like the Vietnam War and, like, people being afraid and, like, not wanting to go over there because of all these lies and just the chaos and tumult, but they want to talk about, you know, Eartha Kitt.
Malarkey.
Do you know where the angry black woman stereotype came from?
No, I mean, I could speculate, but no.
Yeah, it came from where a lot of terrible things come from. Straight white men.
I'm so surprised by that.
Do you remember in episode 11 when I was talking about the Kingfish, I mentioned Amos and Andy being a minstrel show? It came from that. Yeah, so they basically wrote into, like, the collective hive mind all these horrible, untrue stereotypes about black people that are still in effect, including the angry black woman. There was a character
that weren't, like, just completely not a thing at all, and they just invented them for the radio.
Correct.
Good fucking God. And we're still talking about it.
Still talking about them.
When was Amos and Andy? That would have been
1930s through the 40s.
Almost 100 years ago. And we're like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. If you're not an angry black woman, you're like the sexy Jezebel who's, like, hypersexual, who, like, can't be raped like Eartha's mom. Or you're the mammy.
I was just going to say, or you're the mammy.
Who has just all of this labor for white employers. Just there. Amos and Andy created these stereotypes. Fun, right?
Good times.
Good times. So yeah, the end.
I need more whiskey. I don't, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm going to consume more whiskey before I start talking about LBJ and his...
I'm excited to hear about his friend.
his Jerry.
Oh, no.
Okay, we're back. We got fresh cocktails.
Yes.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I probably don't need another cocktail, but you know, it's for work.
Yeah, you're being a professional.
I'm doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, you're giving the people what they want.
Yes. They want me to get shit-faced.
Yes. That's the prize that happens when you go second.
Yeah, I know. It really is.
I was slipping, like, towards the middle, but, like, I brought it back. I'm like, I'm going to have some water. Like, I got this.
Speaking of water, I'm going to take a sip
you should drink some water.
Water. Ugh, gross.
I almost did a spit take.
So Stephanie ruined my intro. I was going to talk about little Beagle Johnson.
Well, I didn't know about that.
Little Beagle, yeah. I do have it written down. Lydia Bird and Lucy Baines.
Yeah.
Lucy with an I, too.
Yeah, and Lydia with, like, a Linden spelling.
Yeah, L-Y.
Yeah, they're just so corny, but also I love it because they're so committed to this, like, corniness.
Oh, Linda with a Y.
With a Y, like Linden.
Ugh. Okay.
Oh, did you not know that?
In my head, I, like, auto-corrected to Lydia.
Oh, no, it's Linda. Like Linden.
Gross.
Because they're very...
Not that Lydia would have been any better with that spelling.
Yeah.
For some reason, my head refused to even acknowledge.
I mean, the spellings of both of their
reading.
names. Lucy with an I.
Luci.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
white nonsense is this?
Thank you.
In the word of Titus.
But they're from Texas.
Yeah, that's true.
No offense, Josh. I'm sorry. Tim erased that.
You know that's not happening. I was going to ask what you knew about LBJ, because I thought that your story was going to be more focused only on Lady Bird and not
But he
so much...
made an appearance
Yes.
at it. So
Yeah.
I looked into him a little bit. I know that he is from Texas. I know that he... From what Josh from the Bloody Beaver told me, he was obsessed with his penis. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, is that where we got Johnson? But I never looked into it because I don't care about men.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Tim, edit that out. But also it's true, so don't. But maybe do. Okay.
Nope. Just don't. Nope. That's fair game now. No, but I did know a little bit about the whole like Great Society initiative before researching this. I didn't really know a lot about him, to be honest, but
Great Society meaning, like, is that like the part of the civil rights?
it was like a combination civil rights and social security, like social
Oh, that's
welfare.
right. Yes. Damn, I keep blowing out the mic, you guys, with my boisterous laugh.
Angry
I'm
black
just so
woman over here.
Angry and black over here, laughing angrily.
Oh no.
Oh God, whiskey.
Yeah, but it was like the Great Society initiative was a sort of a combination social welfare, civil rights situation. I also did know that he was involved in Vietnam a little bit, but like, to be honest, when I think of Vietnam...
You didn't know he was involved in Vietnam?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
But when I think about Vietnam, I think of Nixon. I think of like...
I think of both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that shit.
It's true.
I know, like, Nixon was there for the end, and he was the one that got a lot of
Yeah.
the heat. But, like, LBJ just got a lot of fucking heat for it, too, but I didn't...
Well, Nixon is the one who was impeached.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it was a shit show under Lyndon as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Vietnam, Vietnam is obviously a fucking scandal on its own. We're not going to go there. There's plenty of information out there if you guys want to hear about Vietnam. But, like, we don't need to do that.
No.
Unless we find something that's, like, fun within.
Everyone
like a
knows that
nugget,
it was...
a kernel within Vietnam we
Yeah.
might find eventually down the line. So I don't want to say that we're never going to go there. But, like, there's movies, there's documentaries, there's books, there's podcasts. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to hear about Vietnam, there's no shortage of information.
Yeah, there's a lot of outlets.
So we don't need to go there.
No.
So on that note, instead of talking about the scandal that was Vietnam, today I'm going to be talking about Lyndon Baines Johnson and his Johnson.
Yes.
And his personal life and how penis-driven his personal life was.
It sounds like he was a straight man.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from Texas. It's difficult. I had a hard time writing this story because there's a lot of like little sort of like anecdotes about these nuggets of who he was and what his personality was like outside of the public eye. But putting them together in sort of like a narrative form was really difficult.
I'm sure you're going to get into this, but he like recorded everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He had a very carefully crafted public persona. And this was at a point when...
I don't know why that's funny.
The media really shielded presidents in a big way.
There was no Twitter?
Look at JFK and like all of the
scandals.
mistresses and
Yeah.
and the public wasn't really very keen on what was really going on behind the scenes. And it was the same with LBJ. But people don't know that about LBJ because he wasn't like Kennedy was young.
Because he's unattractive?
And, yeah, exactly. Exactly. No,
I mean,
really.
Who's fucking with that? But
Yeah.
apparently more than 2 women?
Apparently it was big as shit, so. Which was good for him more than it was good for the women, but.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He thought that that's what women
That
wanted.
brings him up to a 6.
Yeah. In public, he was this sort of like professional presidential president. But behind the scenes, he was crude.
Yeah.
He was...
I hate to interrupt you, but did you get into anything about like Lady Bird and who she was?
Not really, no.
She was a mogul.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. She owned a newspaper and a radio station.
Wow.
She bankrolled him. She was
So
the
she
big
was like-
swinging dick in their relationship.
She was flossy.
Exactly.
Funny how both Warren G and LBJ were so penis focused.
I think that's what you have to do when your wife
is
has
the one
one.
with the Wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
I didn't know if I should bring this up.
No,
if this
that's
is coming
totally
up.
like adds an extra layer of like
she
explanation.
was a
too.
baller bitch. She made them multimillionaires. She did.
Good for her.
Yeah.
He himself, he was a little boy. He was an immature man-child.
Yes. What?
Yeah. He was really kind of rude and nasty to people sometimes just to make himself feel better. Like he was a big, strong man.
Ew.
Projecting this image of like, I'm better than you because I have a big dick and I'm like...
So he was insecure?
Yes. Yeah, he just needed to prove what a big, strong man he was all the time, and he used a lot of what in 2016 we called locker room talk.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Congressman Richard Bolling once said, I wouldn't say Johnson was vulgar, he was barnyard.
Oh.
On top of all the burping, farting, nose picking, and crotch scratching.
Ew.
Also, there was constant references to his genitalia, and constant brags about his womanizing and sleeping around. Constant. So for those of you who don't really...
You guys can't hear my eyes rolling, but they're rolling.
if only they made a sound.
I know. Tim, edit in a sound.
Of an eye rolling. So for those of you who don't really know anything about the LBJs, Lyndon Baines Johnson was a Democrat from Texas. He rose from representative to senator to Senate Majority Leader to John F. Kennedy's vice president. And you know what that means.
Yeah.
He was one of them accidental presidents. He became America's 36th president in 1963 when JFK lost his head.
Yeah. He did.
So he's the kind of president a lot of people either really, really love or really, really hate. And there's not, if you know much about him, there's not really any in between. He was, a lot of historians think of him as the greatest champion of progressive policy since FDR.
Well, he did a lot of civil rights things.
He did.
Because he had to.
A lot.
Because he had to.
He didn't have to, though.
Didn't he?
It was at a time where the country needed it.
He knew he wasn't going to be reelected.
It wasn't gaining him any votes to do these things, though.
I know,
it
but
cost him votes.
But he wasn't going to run for...
He did run for a... well,
did he really?
It would have been a third term, but it would have been his second elected term.
Oh, I didn't even know he ran for a second elected term.
Yeah.
I thought he did all these things to be like...
Because he...
Of course.
Yeah.
He's a Southern Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so in the 1960s, he had this Great Society initiative.
Yeah.
Which we mentioned before pushed Social Security, social welfare, and civil rights. There was the war on poverty. He created Head Start. He created Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps. On top of that, he increased funding for public broadcasting, the arts, education, gun control, and wilderness preservation. He also passed the first civil rights bills since Reconstruction.
Yeah, I knew about that.
The first since Reconstruction.
Of course. Yeah, I'm not shocked.
The Voting Rights Act.
That's why we are where we are.
Yeah. No, and a lot of people hate him for it.
Yeah.
Big time.
I mean, he destroyed the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
All the white people left.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they're like, oh, wait, you're going to let Negroes vote?
Yeah.
Fuck
yeah,
that.
There's the Voting Rights Act, the Higher Education Act, the Immigration and Nationality Act, which is a big fucking deal, and the Fair Housing Act. People say that this was the peak of modern liberalism after the New Deal.
It's true.
But then, of course, there is the foreign policy disaster that was the Vietnam War. He basically single-handedly escalated American involvement in Vietnam.
He really did, yeah.
As casualties soared, there was this massive, angry anti-war movement. It seemed like he was
just like, wait, Americans can't lose war.
Yeah.
Obviously they can.
Yeah.
If they don't plan, they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I mean, we're coming from a point where 20 years earlier, we were like the greatest nation in the world.
I mean, that was a lot of...
It was all PR and propaganda. Yeah.
World War II was won on the Eastern Front,
and
not the Western one.
No, we don't need to hear that.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but seriously, people don't like to talk about that fact.
I don't think people know about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know until I watched Oliver Stone's documentary.
Yeah. The Untold History of the United States on Netflix, y'all. You all have to watch this.
I was taught that we won the war, and I'm like, oh, the Russians did.
Yeah, exactly. Despite the fact that he had widespread approval when he first took office, by the end of his second term, people were fucking over him. People wanted him gone. Oh. I mean, there was the war itself, but then there was also this growing unrest and violence at home.
Yeah. So many people are being assassinated.
Totally. That was my next thing. In 1968,
everyone was being taken out that was like trying to progress the country.
Yeah. Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King in the same year. There was disastrous losses in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. There were riots all throughout the United States.
Is this the year when they like shot people at Kent State?
Probably. I don't know for sure that it's the same year, but it's the same.
Demonstrators. Like,
there was so much civil unrest, so much change too, all at once that was new for so many people that people just couldn't handle it. Yeah. Things changing too quickly. You know what I mean?
I mean, yes and no. But what is really changing?
Black people have a voice.
But not really, though.
They're trying. In a way that they never collectively...
we're still trying.
No, I know. You know, well, that's like when Obama took office and everyone's like suddenly like, oh, there's so much racial problems now because... You know what I mean? It's because...
You're right.
Because black people see a black president and they're like, oh, I should be able to be an equal in this country. And then all the white people are like, oh, all these black people are just so focused on race all of a sudden. Yeah. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. But it's that same kind of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Any amount of progress is too much progress.
Exactly.
If you're good where you are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Equality seems like...
oppression when you're the oppressor.
Mm-hmm. So, in 1968, all the shit's going on. He loses the Democratic primary. Nixon took over, ending a New Deal coalition that had lasted in presidential policy since FDR for 36 years. Nixon ended this progressive New Deal coalition.
36 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without it, we'd be
Truman was a piece of shit, but he was at least, in theory, a progressive, even though in reality he wasn't. LBJ he was a real one. As much as he actually wasn't, he was the realest of...
Absolutely. Yeah. But in that time frame between FDR and him, he was like the next one in that lineage.
Yes, yeah.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah. And it's surprising to me to look back at it and be like, this dude is a politician. He's a Southern Democrat from Texas. Mm-hmm. And he's doing these sweeping civil rights and public service.
He wasn't a Dixiecrat.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
I think Texas has its own kind of system, and they're not really involved in like the deep South stuff at all. It's super regional. Yeah. And he was conservative, but like he didn't fall into a category. Back then there weren't these like clear dividing lines. Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. It's hard to peg him down as like one. It was good that there weren't these clear dividing lines. He had a lot of leeway to do things. Absolutely. But then he lost the Democrats. The South was not in play anymore. Yeah. Because of him. But I'll get into that a little bit.
You win some, you lose some.
Exactly. You got to know when to hold them.
Know when to fold them.
Oh, he did not know when to walk away, though.
Facts.
She almost spit.
I almost spit taked. I'm like, don't spit on the dogs in my lap.
But yeah, it's surprising to me, just given like what Texas politics looks like today, to look back 40 years and be like, he could be this progressive from Texas.
Oh, so much has changed.
Yeah. But then on top of it, knowing all these good things that he was trying to do, knowing that he was this like crude little man-child behind the scenes too, is just so strange and like it feels out of character. But
I mean, he's just a man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Period.
So his like kind of crude language and colorful expressions could be possibly written off as just like folksy and quintessentially Texan. But things, you know, it doesn't end with expressions like as straight as an Indian shits. Or it was raining as hard as a cat pissing on a flat rock. Or his famous line about politicians he didn't get along with, that it's better to have them inside the tent pissing out than outside pissing in.
That doesn't make any sense, actually. Pissing out is better.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's better to have them pissing out than pissing in.
Was he born in a barn? Like,
I literally have in my notes that he was raised by wolves.
Okay.
Literally in my notes.
A cat pissing on a flat rock?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Raining as hard as a cat pissing on a flat rock. So that's not where it ends. This is just the beginning of the craziness. He once told reporter Bill Theus, White House economic policies before he took office were, quote, the worst thing that's happened to this country since pantyhose ruined finger fucking.
Oh, wow.
Since pantyhose ruined finger fucking.
Wow, I never thought about how pantyhose ruined finger fucking.
Thank you, LBJ.
He's right. I mean...
Well,
I am searching for the lie.
Yeah, thank you, the 2000s, for getting rid of pantyhose. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, well, we do.
Not quite as much as we did in the 60s.
It was mandatory in the 60s, yeah.
To that end, while we're on the subject of these...
finger fucking?
Somebody who had all this like crude language and colorful expressions, it's surprising to me that he loved to have recording systems all over the White House.
That shocked me.
A few years ago, audio surfaced of him making a call to a tailor to order pants.
Oh, no.
Why the fuck would anyone care about the president ordering pants from a tailor? Well...
Here it goes. He needs to talk about his penis.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Hold that thought.
God forbid some other man doesn't know about his penis size.
Seriously.
At least another inch in the pockets. Yeah. Now, another thing, the crotch down where your nuts hang is always a little too tight. So when you make them up, give me an inch that I can let out there, because they cut me. They're just like riding a wire fence. These are the best that I've had anywhere in the United States. But when I gain a little weight, they cut me under there. So leave me, you never do have much margin there. But see if you can't leave me about an inch from where the zipper ends, round under my back to my bunghole. All right. So I can let it out there if I need to.
What?
Now, be sure you got the best zippers in them. These are good that I have. And if you get those to me, I would sure be grateful. Where would you like to send, please? White House.
Oh! White House.
White House.
There was so much in that clip. I mean, so much.
Yeah, so
wow.
he talks about his nuts, he talks about his bunghole, and then he burps mid-sentence and keeps going.
Thank you. I'm like, was that a burp? I'm like, maybe I imagined this burp.
Nope.
Okay.
And then this poor tailor is sitting here like, wait, who is ordering these things? Where am I sending this shit? The White House.
Living that life.
So this man was raised by wolves, clearly. Meanwhile, he's president. He's going to the House. He's going to the Senate. He's talking to lawmakers. He had this habit of, while he was sitting and talking to people, he would reach real deep into his pocket and start just kind of rummaging around in his groin, just shifting things. You know, he really needed to shake things up in Washington.
I hate you.
Sometimes when he really had an itch to scratch, he would like lean back in his chair and lift his leg up just to get a better angle.
What?
In front of people, in front of lawmakers, on the Senate floor.
This is when he was president?
Well, he was president.
Oh my God. My mouth is just open.
He didn't care who was around to see. He didn't care how they reacted.
I guess it's like, what are they going to say? He's president.
You're the president.
Yeah,
I know.
He's like Andrew Jackson. Like, he realized, like, I'm the king of this bitch.
Yeah.
These hoes can't say nothing.
Yeah, I know. This is only the beginning of his weird-ass fucking behavior.
Oh, no.
So when it came to women, both his behavior around women, the way he spoke to women, and the way he spoke about women, it goes from sort of like fun and folksy and Texan to gross and cringy and awful. He once told a reporter that Lady Bird Johnson was the, quote, the best piece of ass I ever had.
Ew.
That did not stop him from cheating on her.
Obviously not.
Constantly.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, I'm not shocked.
He was a proud womanizer. As you've already said, I think a lot of this has to do with insecurity.
Absolutely. That's all he had.
Yeah. People that knew him really well say that he was constantly trying to measure his character and measure his achievements against those who were his predecessors, and that he always felt like he was coming up short.
Because he was, probably.
Well, yeah. It's different if you're comparing yourself to JFK, maybe. If you're comparing yourself to FDR and you think that you're like a social welfare god, you're going to come up short. FDR was not out here passing civil rights bills.
No.
Despite what Eleanor was trying to get him to do,
he certainly was not.
So he had a reason to be confident. Yeah. But a lot of his behavior feels like a confidence cosplay. It feels performative. And I think a lot of it really, he's trying to prove to other men. It's because of his
wife, I think.
Yeah. And that adds an extra piece to the puzzle that I wasn't aware of that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But I think he was trying to prove to men how confident he was when he was not at all. Yeah. And so talking about the size of his dick constantly and how many women he'd slept with was a way for him to be like, well, I'm better than you because my dick is bigger and I've had more.
Says you.
Well, they saw it. He made sure they saw it.
Of course.
We'll get into that in a bit.
Okay, well, at least he has one thing.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. He liked to consider himself a ladies' man. And he was intensely jealous of anyone who also had a reputation as a ladies' man. He was especially jealous of John F. Kennedy.
I was just about to say, like, how did he feel about JFK? He was killing it.
In 1960, there was the Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles, and JFK was the Democrats' guy.
He's never going to feel right about himself if he's comparing himself to JFK.
Absolutely. JFK already knew that, like, the Democrats were going to vote for him, but LBJ had to work to get votes. But JFK was like, he's like, meh, I got this. And he's like sleeping around, going to hotels and having sex. And LBJ's like, I have to fucking work while you're bagging chicks?
Yeah.
He literally, quote, Jack probably had himself a half a dozen starlets while I'm working my ass off and he's playing tiddlywinks. Another time later on, somebody apparently brought up JFK's sort of like reputation as a ladies' man, and Johnson pounded his fist on the desk. He was so pissed. And he shouted, I had more women by accident than JFK had on purpose.
Wow. Dude, you're so jealous.
I know. According to biographer Robert Caro, quote, he would show no reticence whatsoever about the most intimate details of his extramarital relationships. His descriptions were not only exhibitionistic, but boastful, particularly with his cronies. He would seem almost to need to make other men acknowledge his sexual prowess. There was seemingly no aspect of an afternoon in bed, not even the most intimate details of a partner's anatomy, that he did not consider grist for his vivid storytelling ability.
What a terrible person.
Yeah. But of course, this is the era when the press is shielding JFK from his affairs with starlets.
With all the women.
Yeah. This is an era when the press is letting presidents have a personal life.
Yeah.
The public may not have known that this was going on, but everyone in Washington knew.
I mean, duh.
Everyone knew, including Lady Bird Johnson. She knew all about his inability to keep his dick in his pants, his allegedly huge dick. Apparently, she's running around trying to act like it didn't bother her, that publicly putting up this brave face.
Yeah. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Look at Melania. Just saying.
I don't care that other Russian hickers are pissing on my husband. She's happy. She doesn't have to pee on him anymore.
She has what she needs.
Yeah, sorry. So apparently a TV producer once asked Lady Bird what she thought about her husband sleeping around all the time. Later, after he had died.
Oh, okay, good.
This is later. This is probably in the 80s.
Okay.
And her answer, Lady Bird said, you have to understand, my husband loved people. All the people.
Oh, clearly.
And half the people in the world are women. You don't think I could have kept my husband away from half the people? And after a brief pause, she added, if all those ladies had some good points that I didn't have, I hope I had the good sense to learn a bit from it.
I like that response.
He's just a people person, Stephanie.
I mean, this is wild speculation, but I feel like she had her own sort of thing happening.
I hope so.
You know?
I hope so. Her husband was a low down
fucking bitch.
Yeah, that's true. He probably felt he wanted
like the pool boys and like all the things.
Totally.
Like,
yeah, I hope that she was getting hers. I feel like her husband is a fucking low down dirty dog.
Yeah.
And I it's funny now that you said who she was.
Yeah.
I didn't look into it, and it makes things feel like they make more sense. But I do hope she was getting hers on the side.
I mean, I don't know if Flossie was also getting hers. I think she just liked being kind of in charge.
Yeah. But so this is not the behavior of a people person, Lady Bird. Don't try and say that, like, he's just a people person and that's why he needed to have a million side pieces. But so they had this ranch in Texas, like I think it was like 413 acre ranch in Texas.
Okay.
And they had, whenever he got time away, instead of going to like Martha's Vineyard or wherever it is that presidents go now. Camp David, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. He would go to Texas. He would go to his ranch. And so he liked to have these big parties, and people would come, like tons of people would come, and he really liked to try and get people to stay overnight.
Why?
Especially if they were a pretty young woman.
Never mind.
Yes.
Strike that question from the record.
There's at least one report of a young female White House aide who stayed over.
Classic.
Who was woken up in the middle of the night by a flashlight and the voice of Lyndon Baines Johnson saying, "Move over, this is your president."
Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is like presidential rape? What's happening?
I didn't find any more to that story than just that quote.
It's like, will I go to jail for saying no?
Can I say no? You are the president. Yeah.
Move over with a fucking flashlight? Like you're the law?
In the dark at night, yeah.
Oh.
You're woken up in the dark in the middle of the night after a party. You're probably still drunk. Move over. This is your president. One journalist who was close to the Johnsons, who knew him since the beginning of his congressional days, liked to compare LBJ to the king in the movie Anna and the King of Siam, which, oddly enough, has come up on this show before.
So strange.
This movie.
Yeah.
He said that he had one head wife, Lady Bird, but he also had many other babes. These babes were mostly made up of his secretarial pool. I
mean, again, opportunity.
Yes.
This is what you do.
Yeah.
Look at Warren, neighbor, and then secretary.
Yeah. Apparently, the male White House aides quietly referred to his secretarial pool as the harem.
I hope they got good jobs afterwards.
Seriously.
And, like, no babies.
Yeah. There were a couple babies.
Yeah. Of course there were. Sloppiness.
I know. So LBJ loved to handpick his secretaries. The number one qualification had nothing to do with experience or ability.
I'm shocked.
Yes.
What do you mean?
And I quote, "I can't help it. I put a high mark on beauty. I can't stand an ugly woman around." Yes. Or a fat one who looks like a cow that's going to set on her own udder.
No! Oh my god. Ew.
But this is very 60s. This is very, like, if you've seen Mad Men, everyone had to look beautiful all the time.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Or
like,
women.
It's like flight attendants.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Especially in the 60s, yes.
I wish he was alive so I can kick him in the dick.
Seriously. And his allegedly huge dick.
Yes. So huge.
When it came to the other women in his life, they were not limited to the harem of secretaries or one-night stands with party guests. He also had multiple long-term affairs running at the same time.
Damn.
On top of having a wife and all these one-night stands and all these secretaries, he also had multiple mistresses.
Vietnam and like civil rights. He's still making time for like all the pussy in the world.
Yes. Alice Glass was already the mistress and common law wife of a Texas millionaire newspaper publisher. But that didn't stop old LBJ from having a 30-year affair with her starting in the late 1930s.
Wow.
She said that it was, quote, the most serious love affair of her life. And she also alleges
Is
that...
this before they got married?
No.
Oh, okay.
She alleges that he promised to divorce Lady Bird and marry her and become a corporate lobbyist.
She believed that.
Yeah, we all know that did not happen. He had his sights set higher.
But still, 30 years, she's still thinking that maybe
hanging
one
on.
day.
Yeah. There was another mistress named Madeline Brown. They were together for 21 years, starting in 1948.
Wow, he had decade-long things with multiple
At least
women?
two.
If Harding was like alive at the time, he'd be like bowing down.
Oh my God, the 60s would have been Hardy's jam.
recognize...
I just said Hardy.
You did say Hardy, but it's okay.
Harding.
This is on some other level. I didn't know that you could have
Free love, Stephanie.
Oh, it's true. True love. I know you could have so many, like, long-term mistresses.
Long-term mistresses
also,
and a wife and one-night stands.
But also, as we called them, the jump-offs.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That, like, disappeared. But, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
The 60s was a fucking crazy time.
Madeline Brown said that, and I quote, "He looked at me like I was an ice cream cone on a hot day."
Yes. I mean, I guess that's kind of sexy if you want someone who looks like Lyndon.
I know. He's not attractive.
I mean, I guess if that's your thing, more power to you. But I think it's mostly the office that he had the position.
It was power. Yeah.
It's like he is the most powerful man in this country.
Yes.
Like, look over his comb over.
Yeah. She also said that his lovemaking was, quote, rough, a little kinky, and commanding.
That sounds terrible. I know. That legit sounds like she was not having any orgasms.
She apparently was
When did they make vibrators? Like, was that in the 50s or 60s?
Oh my God, can you imagine using a vibrator in the 60s?
Oh God.
You're like getting electrocuted every 30 seconds.
You have no vagina left.
She also had a son named Steve.
Oh.
She says that after her son was born, she was, quote, set up in a 2-bedroom home with a live-in maid, unlimited charge cards, and a new car every 2 years.
So, yes.
Yes. In 1992, A Current Affair reported that Madeline Brown's scandal was one of the worst-kept secrets in Texas, and that she was, quote, long regarded in many circles as LBJ's mistress. In 1987, her son, Steve, filed a $10.5 million lawsuit against Lady Bird Johnson, saying that she was trying to deprive him of his share of the Johnson estate. And the suit...
Oh, after he died.
Yes. Oh. And the suit included an affidavit from his mother, Madeline, who said that they had had an affair from 1948 until 1969, and that a lawyer had been assigned to her because she had some kind of legal trouble while she was pregnant. But then after she gave birth, that the lawyer had claimed to be Steve's father to shield Johnson from negative press. LBJ said, let this man sign the birth certificate or whatever. I don't know if he actually, I don't know if that actually happened, but he claimed to be the father so that the press couldn't come in and be like, oh, who's the father?
Trash.
Yeah. In 1989, the suit was dismissed when Steve failed to show up to a court hearing due to poor health. Oh. He died the following year at 39 years old of lymphatic cancer. So maybe he was trying to get money for his health care. I don't know. But come to find out, I didn't know this at the time that I was writing this, but come to find out it wasn't Lyndon's money in the first place. It was Lady Bird's money.
It was all her money. Yeah.
So it's no wonder that she wasn't trying to not give it to Steve. There were also a number of other sexual assault allegations and at least...
Sexual assault?
That's what I've read. And at least one other child who may or may not have come from LBJ's sleeping around. But the women in LBJ's life were not the only ones who had the privilege of being on a first-name basis with the president's penis.
Ugh.
Yes, the president's penis had a first name. Many people knew it. It was not Jerry. But it did begin with a J. Do you want to speculate what it might have been?
Is this where we get Johnson?
No, but maybe it is. Maybe it is.
But it has to be.
Johnson was not named Johnson.
Oh, it wasn't?
It was not.
What was it named?
Jumbo.
Stop it.
Jumbo.
Stop it. I hate everything. I literally hate everything and I want to go home.
Jumbo Johnson.
Good night. Thank you for tuning in to Beaver Reproach. I gotta go and scream into...
I'm busy.
The void.
Yes.
I need to scream into the void right now.
Yes. Jumbo Johnson. So, apparently, Lyndon Baines Johnson was notorious for involving his dick in the daily lives of his colleagues, whether they liked it or not. Spoiler alert, they did not. They did not like it.
I mean, in a a way, I guess I'm happy that, like, men got to deal with all this shit, too.
Yeah. Apparently, he was really fond of skinny dipping in the White House pool.
There's a White House pool?
Well, at least there was in the 60s. Things change very frequently at the White House. Whatever whim the current president has, like, they can do whatever they want. So, at least in the 60s there was. I don't know if there still is or not.
Skinny dipping in front of everyone?
Behind the White House, but yes. And he was very fond of, we'll say, encouraging his male White House aides to skinny dip with him. And he was also very fond of comparing the size of Jumbo Johnson to their anatomy constantly, which seems like a really great way to motivate your staff.
What a thing,
My dick is bigger than yours.
If you really think about it, it is so sad.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
that's all you have going for you is like
sad for him.
Yeah.
This thing that you just were born with is your greatest attribute.
Forget the fact that you have this great society initiative that in theory should be
but
like
also,
this.
to forget the fact that you're the fucking president.
Right? You've gotten this far in your life and all you can talk about is your dick.
Toxic masculinity for the win.
So after a 1964 presidential campaign event, Johnson invited White House reporter Frank Cormier and two other colleagues for a sort of like impromptu interview in the presidential quarters of Air Force One.
Okay.
It apparently was a hot day that day because as soon as they got onto the plane, Johnson started taking his clothes off. Cormier said, "It's not every day that the President of the United States takes off his shirt and pants while answering your questions about the economy."
Oh.
He said, after this, Johnson, quote, shucked off his underwear.
Underwear?
Yes.
Why? No one is that hot.
I see what you mean.
Temperature hot.
Yes,
like,
he is not that
like
warm.
stripping into your boxers and like, because it's so hot.
I have to take my underwear
off to cool myself down. Like,
apparently then, as if nothing unusual were going on, the president continued to answer questions while, quote, standing buck naked and waving his towel for emphasis. During an interview with reporters on Air Force One. The plane is now on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force near Dayton, Ohio.
This tells me so much about just straight men in general.
Yes.
I kind of suspected.
Yes.
But, wow.
Yes.
They're this concerned about their dicks.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
LBJ is very fond of getting naked in front of people he barely knew, but he was also very fond of... While he was working in the Capitol, if he was in the House buildings on Capitol Hill, if he needed to go to the bathroom and he was standing at a bank of urinals, he was very fond of whirling around anytime unsuspecting aides or lawmakers would come in, fly down, Jumbo hanging out. Just somebody walks in the room and he's just like, woo, look at my dick, while they're at the urinals. And at least one lawmaker said that when this happened to him, he also shouted, woo-wee, you ever seen anything as big as this? And then he put his hands around it and started spinning it around like helicopter style.
Whoa!
While he started to ask him questions about some upcoming legislation. He's just having a conversation while he's spinning his dick around in front of the toilet.
Oh my God.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America.
That explains so much, though. The office of the presidency, apparently it is just held by men.
Yes. And we like to think of it as dignity.
We know, given our current circumstance, that it's not dignified in any way, but now we really know. Yes. He also, I mentioned this before, but he liked to vacation back at his ranch in Texas. Apparently, on at least one time, if not multiple times, he invited reporters to tour the property of his ranch. Okay.
And while he was touring the property with reporters, would just unzip and start peeing on the ground in front of a group of reporters, just pee.
But why?
Wherever. Because he wanted to, because he was the president, he could do whatever he wanted. Because they needed to see his dick, apparently. Also, apparently, while he was on vacations in Texas, he really enjoyed cruising around in his car while drinking beer.
I'm not shocked by that at all, because that's a thing that people in Texas do.
Yeah.
And they brag about it. It's not rare.
So the Secret Service would have to follow his car to make sure that he wasn't getting himself into trouble or getting into an accident. So he's driving around getting drunk in his car in the middle of nowhere in Texas on these roads. He would stop because he drank so much beer that he had to go to the bathroom. So he would stop and the Secret Service would get out and, are you okay, Mr. President, whatever. And apparently at least once, a gust of wind caught his stream and blew it onto the leg of a nearby Secret Service agent. And when the Secret Service agent said, excuse me, Mr. President,
you're pissing
on my leg, he said, quote, I know, that's my prerogative.
That's some Bobby Brown shit. I'm into it.
That's my prerogative. That's my prerogative. But it didn't end with just peeing in front of his colleagues and coworkers. He liked an audience for the full 3 S's. Shit, shower, and shave. He liked an audience.
What?
With an audience.
Shower, though?
Mm-hmm. A United Nations official named Arthur Goldschmidt said that one time they were in the Oval Office talking together, and suddenly Johnson got up and proceeded to walk towards the bathroom. So Goldschmidt followed him. And according to Goldschmidt, he, quote, took a crap, then shaved and showered.
What?
All the while continuing his conversation as though what he were doing was the most natural thing in the world. He liked to conduct business from the bathroom so much that he had phones installed in the White House bathrooms so that he could take meetings on the toilet. He also used to like to leave the White House bathroom door open while he was taking a crap so that he could have his aides stand outside the bathroom door and take dictation.
He's the worst.
Dictation while he is taking a dump.
Why is he the worst?
A former cabinet secretary wrote, Johnson would continue working with 1 or 2 of his aides throughout his morning toilet. He'd get out of bed, disrobe, get into his high-pressure shower, bringing the aide into the bathroom outside the shower as he continued to discuss whatever was at hand.
Whatever. He still has time for all the mistresses. He's not doing fucking shit.
He would be talking as he emerged, drying himself, and continue, standing naked as he shaved, brushed his teeth with an electric toothbrush, and combed his hair. And these poor White House aides are standing in the bathroom with him, while he's standing naked, going about his morning toilet. Once, Johnson's national security advisor, McGeorge Bundy, was in the bathroom with Johnson. Johnson was trying to talk to him while he's taking a fucking dump, and Bundy wasn't having it. Bundy turned away from Johnson and was facing the wall, trying to be at least like there's some
stalls, right? He's taking a shit.
No, this is his like personal bathroom in the White House.
Oh no! Oh ew!
Yeah.
Ew.
Yes.
Like a solitary, toilet.
Yes.
He's taking a shit and his
his
he's
aides
trying
are
to
standing
give dictation.
there. Yeah. Yes. So this national security advisor is in the bathroom with him, and he's trying to at least act like there's some form of privacy or something. He's listening, but he's standing, facing the wall, facing away from the president. And Johnson took issue with this.
He's like, but you don't see my big dick.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, no, I can't hear you. Come closer. So Bundy is trying to walk towards him backwards while he's still facing the wall. And Johnson had such a problem with it that he kept calling him closer until Bundy almost fell backwards into the president's lap while he's sitting on the toilet. And then Johnson later told a biographer, you'd think he'd never seen those parts of the body before. For there he was, standing as far away from me as he possibly could, keeping his back towards me the whole time, trying to carry on a conversation. I could barely hear a word he said. It's a powered play. I'm going to take a shit, and you have to work while I'm taking a shit.
There's no reason for him to be in there.
I don't know. This story just keeps getting fucking weirder and weirder. The more I research there's a phone next to the toilet. In A History of the White House called The Residence, Kate Anderson Brower says that the president wanted to remodel the White House bathroom while he was in office.
Is there wiretapping in the bathroom?
No wiretapping. God. Okay. It's weirder than that.
Oh.
So he wanted to remodel the White House. I imagine this is when he had these phones put in. He insisted that the White House shower in his bathroom have multiple nozzles that pumped, quote, the equivalent of a fire hose directly at his dick.
What?
He also wanted water that could instantly switch from cold to hot He thought because he had it in Texas already, he should be able to get it in the White House, despite the fact that the White House is hundreds of years old.
I mean, not to shame him. Like, this is a weird kink of his, obviously. But, like, why is this the problem with the White House? Like, just go there on vacation and, like, have the things that you want.
Water sprayed at your dick. Apparently, when White House staffers told him that it would be too difficult and require an intense reworking of the White House plumbing, he snapped at them and said, if I can move 10,000 troops in a day, you can certainly fix the bathroom any way I want it.
But also, what a freak.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, like, go to the place that you like.
Yeah. And so speaking of the troops in Vietnam, he was once speaking with a group of reporters, and apparently one of the reporters asked him a pointed question about why the United States was in Vietnam.
Oh, a real question.
Yes. And he decided that the best way to answer that question would be to unzip.
Stop it.
Pull out Jumbo for a visit.
I really thought, like, I knew where you were going, but I'm like, no, he's gonna, like, that doesn't answer anything.
Yes. Mr. President, why is the United States in Vietnam? Here's my dick. This is why.
This was recorded?
Yes.
And what did papers say?
No. This is like off the record. But like in front of a group of reporters. There is a record of this happening. But apparently it was off the record. So it never...
Oh my...
Yes. Why are we in Vietnam? My dick. That's why.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's trying to make a point.
On second thought, I'm like... It is all about American imperialism and, like, this projection of, like, strength.
Yeah.
So I could see how that could be translated into a dick.
Jumbo.
Here we go. This seems to work with everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the story. He's just a weird fucking dude.
Wow.
It's hard because we're talking about scandals. Obviously, that is the theme of this podcast. I can't do an episode where I'm just like, LBJ was great. LBJ did all these great things for civil rights and blah, 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 because there's so many layers to the story. So it's really hard to come up with like a single narrative thread.
Yeah.
Where a lot of presidents, you can be like, this is the president that did the New Deal. Or this is, you know.
I feel like that's always really limiting, though.
Totally. And that's kind of the point is like, people loved him.
I think there was a time when we did feel that way, but like that time has passed because the internet exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect politician.
No, and everything is nuanced.
Yeah. Perfect politicians don't exist.
It's a good thing, actually.
It's foolish to try to break politicians up into columns of good versus bad.
Absolutely, because it's not reality.
Yeah. As much as there are plenty of bad politicians out there that are just doing bad things, it's also foolish to try and say, like, a politician who's doing good things can also be a bad person.
Exactly. Yeah, people are really complicated.
Absolutely.
And no one is all good or all bad.
I mean, you can only do your best, but presidents are human beings.
Yeah.
And their best sometimes isn't good enough.
And most of our presidents are men.
Yeah.
Not to sound like I'm
all
like
of them
this
so far.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're right.
You just said most.
I just said most because in my head I'm just projecting. I'm thinking of like Merkel and like all these other like amazing
in America,
female
they are
leaders.
all men.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. Yes. It's hard.